one of the differences, having been a rabbi in two smaller communities and now in a suburb of a large city, one of the differences is that it's much easier to be off the radar screen of the Jewish Federation or the Jewish Community Appeal or whatever if you're in a major metropolitan area, right? If you live in York, Pennsylvania, or Norwich, Connecticut, they know who you are, and they're going to call you for a donation, whether you're affiliated or not, right? So every year, this guy, Mr. Goldstein, got a solicitation call from the Jewish Federation, and every year he would say, "No, I'm not giving." And finally, one year, he says, exasperated to the guy who calls, "You're obviously calling me because you believe that I am Jewish. I am not Jewish. My father is not Jewish. My grandfather, Kehilat Shalom, was not Jewish either." Now, one of the things that I have taught over the years is that a lot of Jewish practice is not based specifically on the Bible, right? Although the Talmud attempts to assert that our practices are straight out of the Bible, right? But it's often a stretch, okay? So in the Haggadah for Pesach, we read Dibra Torah ba'arba'a banim, right? The Torah speaks of 4 sons, right? Tell me what chapter and verse the Torah says there are 4 sons. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? No? Okay, so how does the Haggadah say the Torah speaks of 4 sons? Where does it come from? How does the Torah dare to make that claim? Okay, well, 4 times in the Torah, 3 of them in this Parsha, it says something along the following lines, right? In future generations, your son will ask you about the Passover sacrifice or about the Exodus, and this is what you should tell him. Okay, 4 times it says, your son will ask you, this is what you should tell him, okay? And the assumption is that you're not talking about one nudnik son who keeps asking the same question, right? But 4 different sons with 4 different questions. And the first of these, in this week's Parsha, when you enter the land that the Lord will give you as he promised, observe this ceremony. And when your son says to you, what does this ceremony mean to you? Ma ha'avodah hazot lachem, you shall tell him, it is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians, right? And this paragraph that becomes the basis of the wicked son, right? What is the sin of the wicked son? He says, Ma ha'avodah hazot lachem, right? What is this ceremony to y'all, right? I mean, lachem, y'all, that's the only way to translate lachem, right? What does the ceremony mean to y'all, right? Not to us, right? And he doesn't include himself, right? So when I prepare someone to convert, there's no set time period. right? It could take a few months, it could take a year, it could take more than that, could never happen, right? But one of the signs that a person is ready to convert is a shift in the language they use. Instead of saying you, when they talk about the Jews, they say us. Right now, sometimes they'll say, I feel like I should say us, but I don't think I'm allowed to because I'm not officially Jewish, right? And at that, functionally the same thing, right? The point is that you feel like a Jew, you've come to regard yourself as a Jew, right? And one of the sources of contemporary controversy, I've got a class in, right, contemporary Jewish controversies, right? This controversy is not actually so contemporary. It goes back to the 1950s, right? Who is a Jew, right? The problem is that we have one word that has three different meanings, okay? There's a halachic meaning, right? You were born to a Jewish mother, or you had a proper conversion, right? Bracketing the whole question of what is a proper conversion, right? Halachically, you're a Jew if you were born to a Jewish mother or had a conversion, right? There's the sociological definition. What do I mean by that? I mean, you think of yourself as a Jew, right? And everybody else thinks of you as a Jew, right? I'll give you an example. Remember Adam, the actor Adam Goldberg, the Hebrew Hammer, right? Father's Jewish, mother's not Jewish, and as far as I know, never converted, right? He made a whole career out of playing stereotypically Jewish roles, right? Everybody thinks of him, right? He's sociologically a Jew, even if he might not halachically be a Jew, right? And then what I would say the religious definition, right? That is to say, you believe in and practice Judaism, right? So, like, for example, I mean, Kelly told me once a story about when Berkeley was a little kid and something happened in school and the teacher tried to make everybody sing Christmas carols and Berkeley didn't want to. And Kelly says to me, you know, and they're trying to make this little Jewish girl sing Christmas carols. And I said, wait a second, Berkeley didn't convert until she was 14, right? And she said, well, yeah, but you know, we practiced Judaism, we thought of ourselves as Jews, we just hadn't formally converted yet, right? And so that's the problem, right? And I mean, Alan will tell you, if you have one word that has a lot of different meanings, right? It's one way where lawyers make their money, right? But that we have a word, so when we're fighting over who is a Jew, right? That, you know, one of the things we fight, one of the reasons we fight is because we have one word that has a lot of different meanings, right? I mean, for example, a person raised, all right, Brother Daniel, okay? Brother Daniel, I don't know, has anybody ever heard of Brother Daniel? Okay, Brother Daniel is this Carmelite monk who shows up at the port of Haifa sometime in the 1960s. He's a Carmelite monk. The mother house of the Carmelite order is in Haifa on Mount Carmel, right? Shows up at Haifa port, right, wearing his Carmelite habit, and he says, I am a Jew and I'm here to make Aliyah under the law of return. Right? Well, it turns out that Polish Jew okay, fought with the partisans against the Nazis. They were after him, took refuge in a monastery, spent a couple years there, eventually converted, right? Then some 20 years later, asked the Carmelite order, I want to go live with my people in Eretz Israel. Please transfer me to Haifa. They agreed. Okay. Brother Daniel, right? Jew or not Jew? Come.
Jew. He's Jewish. Because you said, Rabbi, in one of your discussions with us, that even if a Jew converts to another religion, that Jew is always a Jew.
Okay. So you are going by the halachic definition, right?
No, I'm going by your words.
Unfair, completely unfair, right? But my words are the halachic definition, right? Once a Jew, always a Jew, right? It's like the mafia. You can join, but you can't quit, right? Right? All right, so anybody else? Brother Daniel, Jew or not Jew?
It's interesting because it really depends on whether you want to keep the word Jew strictly under the umbrella of a religion, right? Because religions you can opt in and opt out of.
Right.
So if you don't want to keep it under, certainly the Nazis would have considered it.
A Nazi would absolutely have considered him a Jew, right? Anybody else? I mean,
I say that he's a Jew, but that he can't count towards a minion.
All right, having trouble hearing you.
I said, I think he's a Jew halachically, but cannot count towards a minion.
Right, he's a Jew halachically, but would not count towards the minion. Right, and that's exactly right. I mean, so here, without getting too bogged down, halachically, he's a Jew. Sociologically, is he a Jew? I don't think so. He may think so, but I don't think so, right? Religiously, is he a Jew? Absolutely not, right? So if he shows up, I mean, he's not going to show up because he's dead now, right? But if he showed up for shul, would we count him for the minyan? No. Would we give him an aliyah? No. Would we say to him, you know, somehow, I don't know, somebody left around some bacon, we never brought it into the kitchen, right? But it's sitting in the office, you want it? Would we give it to him? No, absolutely not. Because he's halachically a Jew, right? So he's still got to eat. From our perspective, it's a sin for him to eat treif, right? You have essentially, as an apostate, you have all the obligations of Jews, but none of the rights and privileges of Jews, right? So can't give him the bacon, right? Either, right? It's like the worst possible situation. You have to observe all the mitzvot, but you don't get the privileges. Yeah.
So when he becomes a monk, does he actually renounce?
I don't know.
So, or is he not counted in a minion because he does not identify himself other than halachically as a Jew? It makes me wonder whether, you know, so many American Jews, you know, born Jewish and have had absolutely nothing to do with their religion, would they be counted in the minion?
No, there's a difference between having absolutely nothing to do with Judaism and actively following another religion, right? I mean, particularly.
You can be both.
Well,
you renounce Judaism when you know, Jew booths, for example.
all right, so no, look, it's a complicated issue, all right? It is a complicated issue. Christianity is clear cut, okay? Because there are beliefs associated with Christianity that are explicitly forbidden for Jews to embrace. The divinity of Jesus, Okay, so a Jew who becomes a Christian, that's clear cut. A Jew, much less clear cut. Okay, for that matter, my brother, a Unitarian, right, also not clear. I mean, in fact, not only not clear cut, I would count him in me. I would give him an aliyah because he hasn't embraced any beliefs that a Jew is not allowed to embrace, right? But a Jew who becomes a Christian, I could possibly say to them on the side, you know, I'm happy for you. You found something that enhances your life, right? But as a rabbi, halachically, that's just a bridge too far.
But by what authority is something not allowed? Is it Torah?
The Talmud.
The Talmud says you can't believe in the Messiah. Messiah.
No, it's not the messiahship of Jesus, right? If it was believing in a Messiah who's not really the Messiah, then most Chabadniks would not be Jewish either, right? I mean, it is specifically the divinity of Jesus, right? In other words, the normal Christian belief is that Jesus is God who took on human form, right? It's not just that he's the Messiah. It's God who took on human form, and that is a heretical belief. God can't take on human form, right? So the minute you embrace, I mean, and that's why, you know, Unitarians who grew out of Congregationalism, but they don't believe in the divinity of Jesus. They don't even believe in the Messiahship of Jesus, right? But that's the problem. If it was simply belief in somebody as the Messiah who is not in fact the Messiah, half a Chabad you couldn't count either.
So you wouldn't count Messianic Jews.
Right, because they embrace the divinity of Jesus, right? Okay, so we went in a direction I hadn't planned. I don't know how that happens, but I want, I mean, there is so much going on with the new Israeli government that it is hard to keep track, right? But because of the presence in the coalition of not only the ultra-Orthodox parties, but the so-called religious Zionism party, right? There's a lot of motion towards changing the law of return. Right? Because right now, the law of return, and it's not based on halakha. Okay, so ultimately, Brother Daniel, the ruling for Brother Daniel was you cannot become a citizen under the law of return, but you can become a naturalized citizen like anybody else. Okay, and he did eventually become a naturalized Israeli citizen, right? But the law of return says, I mean, and subsequent to Brother Daniel was officially amended in the Knesset, that that a Jew who embraces a non-Jewish religion is not eligible under the law of return. Right? There have subsequently been, as you can imagine, law cases, what does it mean to embrace a non-Jewish religion? But I am not going down that road right now. Okay. But it also says, if you are married to a Jew, you can make aliyah under the law of return. If you have one Jewish grandparent, you can make aliyah under the law of return. And it also recognizes non-Orthodox conversions, right? I mean, people don't know that. And very often they'll say, oh, Israel will recognize my kid as Jewish. No, for purposes of aliyah, okay, a conversion performed here by me or performed before me by Rabbi Raphael or any of our predecessors is valid for purposes of the law of return. It is not currently, it is not valid for getting married in Israel because that is under Orthodox auspices, right? But you can...
Or getting buried in a Jewish cemetery.
Or getting buried in a Jewish cemetery, right? But you can make aliyah and you will become a citizen and you will be given a Teudat Zehut, an Israeli identity card that says Jew. Okay, you will. So, but as a result, particularly of the grandfather clause, since the fall of the Soviet Union, approximately 1 million people have made Aliyah from the former Soviet Union who are not halakhically Jewish, right? But basically, in Israel, what? You're either a Jew or you're an Arab, right? I mean, they identify as Jews, they serve in the army, they speak Hebrew, but halakhically they're not Jewish, right? And so the ultra-Orthodox party and the religious Zionist party, the people who are there are there, right? But they don't want to admit any more such people in order to preserve the Jewish character of the state. And they want to take away the recognition of non-Orthodox conversions. And they already make it, and most of these people, by the way, would convert if it wasn't like so just absolutely impossible to do so, right? And this is a problem because, you know, if you look, all these people, they identify as Jews even if they're halakhically not Jewish, right? And that gets back, Dr. Conrad, to your question about people who are halakhically Jewish but have no, right? I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you look at survey data, right, the percentage of Jews who say that they are proud to be Jewish rises all the time. Okay, now, does anti-Semitism, will that change? I don't know. Okay, it's too early for us to have any good survey data, right? But you have, I mean, I'm sure Ilan has tons of friends who happen to be Jewish, but have no Jewish education, do nothing Jewish, right? But if you ask them, are you proud to be Jewish? They will probably say yes, okay? And this identification with the Jewish people as the sort of building block of any other type of Jewish identity goes back to the wicked son, right? And to the extent that Israel does things which discourages people from identifying as Jews, it is harmful to the Jewish future, in my opinion. I mean, whether this will happen, I mean, you know, Netanyahu, who, as I said last week, I mean, he's a smart politician and he's a conservative, small c and also big C, right? He's not a conservative Jew, although he did go to Akiva Hebrew Academy, which is a conservative school. But, you know, and he's, I mean, in Hebrew, he says, yes, we're going to pass all these laws. And then in English, he says, don't worry, it'll be fine, right? As if Smotrich and Ben Gvir don't know how to read English, right? But, you know, so maybe it'll be okay. But if these changes would be very detrimental if they went into effect. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. And
Rabbi,
yeah.
excuse me, one quick question going back to today's Parsha. What, there's a mention a bit from God saying that, let me just read this very quickly. It says on page 398, I am with you, I will make an end to all nations among which I have banished you, but I will not make an end to you, but I will not leave you unpunished. Why was he going to punish him?
For our sins.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
I mean, among them, I mean, in general, I mean, Jeremiah is certainly not going to let the Jewish people off lightly. But I think particularly in this case, he's talking about the sin of over-reliance on the Egyptians, right? Relying on the Egyptians rather than simply on God.
Thank you.
Rabbi, can I make a quick comment? I'll try to be as quick as possible.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is actually very relevant to what happened a few days ago. A few months ago, actually, I posted something on Facebook about the rising anti-Semitism in China and how the Kaifeng Jewish community has become tense and being subject to anti-Semitism in their midst. And just a few days ago, this Frumi, who I don't know at all, decided to post, "I feel sorry for these goyim, but they are not Jews." And I found that to be the most inappropriate response to a post about rising anti-Semitism targeting a community that identifies as Jewish and is identified by the surrounding people as Jewish. So as the question of who is a Jew, I mean, if you're going to be attacked as a Jew, you might as well be protected as a Jew.
No, absolutely. I mean, then that's the whole point. That's the whole point of the law of return, right? Which, I mean, frankly, does not mince words. The law of return's definition is the Nuremberg law's definition, right? But that's exactly it. If you're going to be persecuted as a Jew, Israel's going to protect you as a Jew, right? It had nothing to do with halakha. It has to do with sociology and simply humanity. Anyway, Musaf Kaddish before Musaf, and the Musaf service 155 or 428, and then we'll say the first